1989, Amy Tan's Joy Luck Club, still a bestseller, sort of like the David Vinci book that knocks everybody else out of the list. 1991, Jung Chang's Wild Swans, which is still the bestseller on everybody's list. 1999, Han Jun's Waiting, which was the first time a Chinese author won the National Book Award in America. Now, all four books won various awards at time of publication. The trajectory here is a movement away from the immigrant narrative in the West. So we have sort of Maxine Hong Kingston and Amy Tan, who were Chinese-American families and their immigrant stories, to the stories of China told in English. So it's sort of like we had Alienation and Shameful Chinese Secrets, which is sort of the Amy Tan, Kingston sort of content, to Cultural Revolution horror, and with that, the cruel history and the tragic comedy for private lives, which is Ha Jun's Waiting. So in answer to who gets published, it's China, bad, Western world, good, because the West means democracy, freedom from hardship, and tragedy. And I'll just inject a personal note here. My uncle, one of my uncles was actually a victim of the Cultural Revolution. He was sent out to the farms, he worked in a pig farm and all that. He ends up in Hong Kong, completely stateless, doesn't have his former Indonesian citizenship and no citizenship. He is today still a patriot of China and thinks this is perfectly okay. You'll hear that perspective very much, even though there's probably literature that would reflect that. In fact, I know there is literature that reflects that, but we don't see that published internationally. Are you the next Amy Tan? I've actually been asked this question. The other one is the next Chinese sob story. This isn't what people say, but this is what people mean. This seems to be the perspective of the publishing industry for what is acceptably Chinese. So it has a lot to do with what the Anglo-American world can assimilate culturally at any given point in history, and also what is most profitable. These days, China is less foreign and alien as the world clamors to make their fortune in that gargantuan Chinese marketplace. Now it is hip to publish Chinese author. Yet what gets published and noticed is not necessarily the Asia or China that is, but the one that the Anglo-American world endorses. Well, for example, I was very pleased to find on this International Literary Festivals at UEA that Amy Tan and Jung Chang have both been guests here. Ha Jun and Kingston, however, have not. And this means pro-democracy and freedom narratives, because this fits comfortably into the axis of we're still better than them. This means immigrant narratives of redemption that reinforce how well the West assimilates all these foreigners, offering material comfort, safety, literary expression in the global language, lust, and even love. So I'll conclude with just a brief observation about Asian writing in English with specific reference to Booker. I was at a festival in Jamaica where Pico Ayo was, and I said to him, have you noticed that in recent years, the Booker Prize has a lot of winners and shortlisted Asian authors for whom it is their first or second book? And he said, you might be right, but you should write about that. So here it is. What caught my attention was exactly that, the number of first and second books by Asian authors that won or were shortlisted. But by contrast, the non-Asian authors only won or were shortlisted for a book that spoke to a longer, proven literary career. What was this? Affirmative action? Reverse discrimination? Or is it that the international publishing world exoticizes Asian writing? The new, hot, young, preferably photogenic Asian literary fine must-trumped established writers, both non-Asian and Asian. So just to be perfectly sure, I went back and looked at all 42 winners of the Booker when it began in '69. It's 42 because in 2 years they were joint winners. And most of these were at least a third book, including for 3 who were Asian authors. That's Naipaul, Jabala, and Ishiguro. These were all third books that won. Of the 8 exceptions, which were first or second books, 6 were Asian or Asian Pacific authors. Ondaji, Rushdie, Holm, Roy, Kiran Desai, and Ika. And the remaining 2, what I will call internationally exotic which is perhaps a publishing synonym for Asia. That was Bartel and D.B. Pierre, a Mexican Englishman. Incidentally, one of the 6 Asian authors, it was Rushdie's second book, Midnight Children, that was named, as you probably know, the best of the Booker in a public vote last year. So the Anson gets published, noticed, and celebrated among Asian writers in English. The shiny new thing makes all the difference until the next hot property comes along. So I'll just stop here and let this open up to discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you.